Good evening. Welcome to tonight's interesting conversation between a number of professionals in the arts. The topic is called Being an Artist, a Practical Guide to Creativity. And my name is Cynthia Corbett. I'm the director of the Cynthia Gallery and the founder and director of the Young Masters Art Prize. With me this evening is Ciarán O'Neill, who is the deputy manager of the Artist Collecting Society, and he is going to focus a lot of his discussion tonight about artist resale rights, copyright, and how artists protect their work, which I think is really, really interesting. Oliver Jones, here, is a practicing artist, and very happy to say is one of the award-winning artists of our Young Masters Art Prize from 2014, and a few pieces of Oliver's work are upstairs, which you can see after the talk. And we thought it would be interesting from Oliver's perspective to talk about how he deals with these issues, practical issues about being an artist, some of the things that Ciarán will talk about on your daily basis. And then Anastasia Lander has joined us recently from Sotheby's Institute, where she's getting her master's. And Anastasia is our new executive coordinator for the Young Masters Art Prize, but has a very, very extensive background in marketing. And she is going to talk a little bit about tips for how artists can help themselves particularly in the world that we're in today, which is a digital world and so many outlets for marketing possibilities. So I think I'd like to start with you, Ciarán, and maybe if you wouldn't mind, because also from my point of view, I'd love to understand a little bit of history about how the Artist Collecting Society came about, particularly for some of the people that don't know about Director's Suite and things like that.
Okay, well, the Artist Collecting Society is focused on administering intellectual property rights for visual artists, and specifically artist resale right and copyright. And Droit de Suite, or artist resale right, was introduced into the UK in 2006, and that was the same year that the Artist Collecting Society was founded. So, at its basis, the Artist Collecting Society was founded to collect artist resale right. And it's called Droit de Suite because originally it was a French intellectual property right. And in origin, it actually dates back to the 19th century and early 20th century. So, the very famous painter Jean-François Millet, his Angelus, when he originally sold it, I don't know the exact figure, but sold for something like 20 francs. And then when he died, years later, the painting resold for 2 million francs or something ridiculous like that. But his family at the time were living in poverty. So the fact that his painting had increased in so much value, but his family were living in poverty, there was a sort of injustice there that was recognised. And Droit de Suite was introduced to sort of address this, to say that if an artist's work increases in value, the artist or the artist is deceased, their estate, their heirs, they should really benefit from that increase in value. And so Droit de Suite was introduced in France, and then in 2006 it was introduced throughout the European Union as artist resale right. And in its essence, it is a royalty that is applied to the resale of artistic works. So as an artist, as your work is reselling and increasing in value, this royalty is collected and then paid back to you, sort of to reflect the fact that your work is increasing in value and that you should sort of be recognized for that, essentially. And then it's part of copyright, which is why we also collect copyright. It's related to copyright legislation. So the Artist Resale Right was founded in 2006 to collect artist resale right, but we also collect copyright, and essentially we are there to ensure that artist royalties are collected and that artists' intellectual property rights are protected and promoted, and we administer these royalties on behalf of artists. So that's what it
I think it's really interesting. So if you take, like, as a practical example, so this is Isabel Bonzel's first solo show. She is selling her work at, what I would say, quite reasonable prices. This is what I would call a primary. This is a primary market. I'm her gallerist. I represent her. I would sell it to this collector, that collector, a museum, a curator, whatever. We as a gallery, for example, don't trade.
Yeah.
So so let's say, as a good practical example, Isabel's work is bought by a small regional gallery. They run into difficulty in 10 years. Her price has gone up. We're selling her work all the time, say, from now for 10 years, and we're increasing her prices as we think the market bears it. But it's sold, say, for $5,000 originally to this, say, regional museum, and then it's selling for $50,000. What if this artist, for example, Isabel, is not registered? So how does that work? How do you register, or how do you communicate?
Well, it's an alienable right, so regardless of whether or not an artist is registered, agrees with it has to be collected. So it's a right that the artist has regardless of how they feel about it. So it should just be collected on the resale of that artwork. One thing to just point out anyway is that it's only collected on resales that are sold through an art market professional. So that's specifically through an auction house, a dealer, or a gallery. So private sales, artist resale right, doesn't apply at all. And it's only on sales that are above, in this country, the sterling equivalent of €1,000. So there are thresholds throughout the European Union. For example, in Ireland, where I'm from, the threshold is €3,000, but here it's the sterling equivalent of 1,000 on the day of the sale. So just to point out those two things anyway. But regardless of whether or not the artist is registered with a collecting society, or whether or not the artist is even aware of this right, it is the responsibility of the gallerist or the dealer to ensure the royalty is collected, and to ensure the royalty is then just held until the artist claims it, or the collecting society acting on behalf of the artist claims it. And so it is a legal. It's a legal responsibility. Both the buyer and the seller are both liable within the law. So different art market professionals work differently. Auction houses tend to charge the buyer of the work. So big auction houses now, like Sotheby's, Christie's and Bonhams, in their catalogues, they will often have a symbol beside works that are applicable for artist resale right to let buyers know, on top of VAT and buyer's premium, you're also going to have to pay artist resale right. But it's really up to the art market professional in question how they want to work it. But legally, if this is the resale, so not the primary sale, but if it's the secondary sale or any sale after that, if this work is reselling by law, if it's above €1,000 in sterling, and the artist is in copyright, so if the artist is living, or the artist is dead within the past 70 years, and the artist is British or from a European Union country, then artist resale right will apply to that.
So if the artist is deceased more than 70 years,
they're out of copyright, so it doesn't apply. So that's the same thing with copyright. So it's like when a writer is dead 70 years, suddenly anybody can publish their works because they're out of copyright. Same thing with art. You can sort of reproduce Michelangelo's works. You can post pictures of Michelangelo's works wherever you like because he's out of copyright, he's dead more than 70 years. But if the artist died within the past 70 years, they are in copyright. So copyright law applies to them. their work can't be reproduced without clearance from the artist themselves if they're alive, or their heirs if they're deceased, and artist resale right will apply while the artist isn't copyrighted.
So I want, I'm going to try to direct various questions and to keep it really interesting. So Oliver, I want to ask you a couple things, but can you, what Ciarán was just talking about, for instance, from your point of view, how do you feel about that as an artist who, when you started out, you kind of exploded a bit, particularly when you were having your shows in LA and selling to people on their couch. So what do you think about this?
It's flattering for a start as an artist. As soon as you hit a certain threshold, and your work starts accumulating in interest and it starts getting a bit of a following. You take that bit in your stride. You like the primary, like say, in the primary sales. That bit is what you've been focused on, and then the second half becomes almost a flatter that people want to kind of share it in that way. I guess recouping some of that is needed in some cases, but also I guess it just makes you feel a little bit like you're being looked after somewhat rather than traded as a sort of currency, which might happen, in certain circles. So certainly it helps in that respect. But personally, because my work really exists in its in the work that I'm making at the time, and not with reproductions. It's quite easy to keep track of because I know what work has been out there, and there's not a lot of things that are popping up that I didn't know that I had made. But I do. It still is a thing that I see work popping up that I completely forgot about, which has ended up in a certain circle that I haven't really realised. It's good that people are keeping track of that. Because you can get so sucked in your own practice, you forget about what has been, and ultimately it's your legacy. You want to kind of see this protected.
Several sort of artists who, when we contact them and say to them, "Oh, your work we sold at Christie's," they suddenly are slightly taken aback and say, "I didn't know that." And then you say, "Yeah, and there's this money waiting for you too, so we want to pay it to you." And there's sort of sometimes there are those occasions where people are surprised and don't necessarily realise because you're not spending. We spend within the Artist Collecting Society. We have the laborious task of having to sit and go through auction sales and contact dealers and contact
buyers as well.
Yeah, just
not simply keep track of it.
And as an artist, you don't want to do that. So so it is a nice sort of, I think, way of knowing, of keeping track of where your works are going and when they're reselling and that sort of thing too. On top of the fact that you get some money from it.
So your organisation then, and this is really interesting, because obviously an artist needs to be doing some practical things which we'll come to, but in this sort of a case, you presumably have researchers, because you're having to then cover the auctions, correct, in all of Europe, with the exception of Switzerland because they're outside Europe. But but all of the rest of Europe, you have. In terms of for British artists, correct?
Yeah. Well, the European Economic Area, to be very specific. So I spoke to guests like the EU and Norway and a few others. But as you said, not Switzerland. But we collect directly here in the UK and in Ireland. So we keep an eye on auction sales directly here in the UK and Ireland, which takes quite a bit of time. But then we have agreements with sister societies who do the same thing throughout Europe to collect on our behalf, to collect for our artists, because to look through the sales of auction houses throughout France and Spain and Germany or whatever would be absolutely impossible almost. But we do here in the UK, which is a hugely time-consuming task in and of itself, just constantly keeping track and constantly adding things to Excel databases, basically, to make sure all the information is up to date.
And when artists are registered with you, does that become easier? Are they tagged almost? So that then if they come up, then
Then they're on a list, and we have basically someone within our organisation who will have that list of artists, go through that list, check all of those individual artists' sales throughout various databases, sort of Art Price, ArtNet, Invaluable, the Sale Room, and someone within our organisation will go name by name through all of our members, check them all, reach the end, and then begin again.
Yeah.
So it's a constant process. So once you're registered with us, your sales are constantly being searched to make sure we don't miss anything.
And things like charity auctions, they're exempt.
They're exempt, and museum, for example, as well would be exempt. If a museum buys a work, they don't have to pay artist resale right.
Museum, but what about like a small regional gallery?
They would have to pay it. If it's a public, no, but if it's a private gallery, yeah.
Okay, so if Leeds Museum is buying from Christie's?
No, in that case, no.
No. Okay, that's really interesting to know.
What about, did you register with ACS or any other?
Yes, yeah.
How did you choose someone to protect your music? How was your...
Oh, I was discussing with Ciarán earlier that I kind of blanketed all of them at one point. And because it kind of works in that way that there's no really specificity of who you do it. So, but because, I mean, these initiatives have become more
available?
I guess from when I practiced in the very early stages, it wasn't that obvious way to go. So you kind of accumulate it in a way almost. So I mean that's how it started. For me. But they also become a lot more evident, you know, especially the artist resale right and we were discussing it dance and so. That's how
So you register with both DAX and Arts Resale?
Yes. So
It's not something that they teach you in an art school.
No. I mean, it really should be. You know, it certainly wasn't when I practiced. But a lot of ways of working as an artist aren't taught you in an art school. You have to learn that pretty quickly. But I mean, it's almost like there should be a checklist of things, and often when I go and talk to recent graduates and things, they are literally, there's a set list of things you can literally set yourself up as to start with. You know, one of those is a good thing, but in terms of early works, you know, again, trying to keep track of what those are, sort of cataloguing, keeping your own catalogue of your own work is important in the very first instance, because if you can't do it yourself, you know, then asking somebody else to verify that.
So as a practicing artist, can you discuss some of the more practical challenges that you face, besides the fact that you're obviously you're coming up with all these incredible ideas, but like on a practical basis?
Yeah. I mean, the first one I always say is to register yourself as a working artist, because otherwise, you know, I'll give this example, that you can't be an actor by just acting in front of your bathroom mirror all the time. At some point you've got to make that decision that I'm going to do this, and it means taking yourself seriously, because nobody else is going to take you seriously if you can't make those steps yourself. So that's certainly the first thing. And second of all, really, we were talking about this earlier because you fund studio spaces for your company, but getting a studio space, putting yourself a footprint down, because you can't expect to, invite collectors or gallerists around your mum's house where you're painting down in the cellar, And sometimes, I speak from a privileged position that I haven't there, but even practically, in the very first instance, I made it very importantly that I got out of a home environment and rented someone's garage for like £30 a month. And it was quite dingy and grotty, but I made work that I needed to make it, and it just allowed me to do that practice, and things progress. But taking it so seriously in the first place was one of those, and so registering with companies that are specifically looking after you is probably really the first priority.
So studio.
We're a not-for-profit organisation, but if the company does make any profit within a given year, we are legally obliged to reinvest that money in artistic projects. So we have sponsored the Young Masters Art Prize, for example, and then another thing that we started doing, because we've noticed exactly what you described, the struggle as an emerging artist of finding a studio space, especially as they're becoming, as we were talking about earlier on, increasingly expensive. We sort of noticed our members talking to us about that. So we now have our own sort of studio prize, which is running at the moment, where we sort of fund a studio space and we put about £6,000 towards the rental costs of a studio space in the city of the artist's choice. And that's open to sort of graduating artists, or those who have graduated within the past few years. And then we also sponsor studio prizes with different universities so that they can offer a studio space to their students who are graduating. It's a prize because we can't pay for it. It'd be wonderful if we could pay for everybody's studio spaces, but we can only pay for a limited amount based on how much money we have to give away at the end of the sort of financial year. But that's essentially we felt that seemed like the most sensible way of reinvesting, in terms of reinvesting the artistic community. The most sensible thing we could do was pay for studio space, because that seemed to be a really big problem. And as you said, it's such an important thing when you're starting out in your artistic career to have a space where you can work. And then living somewhere like London, how are you supposed to afford that? So we sort of thought, this is what we really need to focus on.
Artists are also they're innovators, they'll find all the means to make it work. If they've got something passionate to say, they'll find a way of making it. I'm not putting anybody against a space that they can use is anywhere, but like to really just important to take so seriously.
No, it's just this whole question about, it's a really big important issue right now, particularly in London, with finding studio space. And I was just going to ask, when the transition from being a student, and being in art college, and then getting a BA or an MFA or MA, and obviously all that, with all the materials and all the resources are available. And kind of what I always found a little bit strange is that the aftercare, what I would call aftercare, is kind of not there. And so I guess, yes, artists are very resourceful, but this is something I think that needs to be more discussed.
Yeah.
If you come out and you maintain practice straight away, it does weed out a lot of people who come through the hospital. That means also that does detrimental. There's a lot of work that isn't being seen, and then potentially it's being get quite a way through life and realise actually this is something that I really wanted to have done. I just didn't have those avenues to do it.
And what about, so obviously studio space is the most important thing, but what about materials and also time and like juggling and just resources generally and what are some of the other challenges?
Yeah, all of those things. They were really the prime problems here that you had, and there's no real hard and fast rule to that, because you kind of need those to flourish. And I think, I mean, the price of, I work at Pastel, the price of pastels has gone up about more than me since I used them. I mean, now I work very closely with the Pastel company, and so, help out with it in those sort of respects. But ultimately, I guess it's just this finding a way, finding a way to sort of work in practice, and if that is, bedrock or steel, it's how it starts, and I guess that is what brings the draw to new emerging artists, is how they're making their work. I think that's part of the exciting things around it. From my point of view, I work with a large public art institution, so I was kind of in the field meeting other artists and gallerists, and that was whilst I was studying as well. So it kind of put me in that sort of environment, and so it was certainly useful, and we built a network through that. But in terms of how you're trying to supplement that practice, it can be anything. People take part-time work, and then one takes over, that balance between how you're sustaining it, and very privileged to have got going quite quickly, so I didn't really have to worry too much about that counterbalance.
Do you teach as well?
No, oh yes, I do. And I do some adult courses at West End College, so that's it's quite nice to I guess. It's not giving something back, it's just trying to spur somebody else's creativity on.
We're going to talk more amongst ourselves and probably ask some questions, but Anastasia, with all your marketing experience and now applying that and looking at the whole art world and emerging artists, particularly in your involvement with young masters, what do you think some of the pitfalls are? What do you think some of the better way forwards are, and the challenges as well in the digital age we're living in? Because it seems like everything is available, but is it? Yeah. So I'd like to.
I think a colleague student of mine, she's an artist as well, and her end of year dissertation topic is exactly the resources that contemporary artists have to dedicate to different spheres of their artistic life and career. And she divides them into profitable and non-profitable. The profitable ones, she builds the artistic work that can afterwards be sold and bring income. To the non-profitable ones, she dedicates teaching, the admin activities, the marketing yourself, etc. And the paradox is, and then she says, all those non-profitable activities take so much of artistic time that the time that should normally be dedicated to the artistic practice itself, to the creativity itself, to the pure excitement of the act of creation, is reduced to maybe a couple of hours a day, if one's lucky enough. So I think that's the main pitfall there, that an artist, a creative person, by nature, is sometimes just not thinking about all the daily routine things that he or she has to think about when getting out there and, as Olga says, taking yourself seriously. You have to know how to do Excel to catalog your work. You have to think about putting yourself out there. You're lucky if you find a gallerist who looks after you, or an agency who looks after you and markets your work and markets you as a person. But these days, as you say, everything is available, and Instagram has made amazing opportunities for lots of artists to really be out there and be able to sell their works directly and market themselves. But I know that not all artists are keen on to do this. They'd rather be in the studio, they'd rather create than shop their work and market it and put hashtags underneath. But the problem, the issue is that before, I don't know how your career evolved before it really picked up. But as I see, at some point you have to do things on your own. You have to make yourself visible by creating a network, by putting your work online, by having a website, by having your email available or other ways of contacting you, be it Instagram, be it Facebook. You have to research art prizes if you want to get grants or just have visibility. And sadly, you have to dedicate time to really polish all the boring things, the CV, the statement, because I understand that many artists may say, well, guys, this is my work, it speaks for itself, I can't really put it into words. But it's something that has to be done. Unfortunately, maybe, you have to think about yourself as of a brand. It helps, but it can be very tiring.
Say with websites, because I would say we've had a surprising number of occasions where contemporary artists have resold and we've collected their royalties, and we think, this artist is 28. Going to be really easy to contact and pay them. And you go online and you can't find anything. And you just think, why does this artist not have a website so that we can just email them directly and say, we have money that we want to pay you or whatever. So I think having that public presence is very important because people might want to contact you. And if they can't contact you because you haven't made yourself available, and usually by having a website, for example, that isn't very helpful. So those sorts of things are obviously really important.
I mean, this thing about Instagram, people seem to have it in their head that this is the only means of what, but I came into it quite late, and so it's, things were done
in a different way.
In a different way before then, and they still haven't. I mean, it is a huge window, and it can't be, I can't feel like it can cut it out of my life.
Yeah.
As much as I'd love to. But it is by no means the
only way. What would be the other ones? What would be the other ones?
I mean, what for me was old-fashioned meeting people. Attending private views and getting into a network of people. And because the art world is exceedingly small, and there's so many converging circles. With one circle, they converge. But I think you can. Because I guess the thing with Instagram, without going on about it, it's easy. People can get into that. I'm comfortable with the zone where I used to have a motto that if it wasn't scaring me, that it wasn't really worth doing, and I'd sit on a train just to come to a private view, that I put my name down to, and I very rarely wanted to go to any of this thing, but it was important for me to do. And Instagram comes to you, and so people are quite comfortable to sit on their bed for all evening and scroll through and do the live. So it's not doing the same things as you were when you were meeting. Because ultimately, it's got to come down to that. We're not quite moved into the age of everything silent, and so that's
well, so if you look at someone like Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, would they be using Instagram? Would they be using Photoshop? Would they be using the most high level of technology? And if you really read about those kind of artists, I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
But would they also use it on their terms? So I guess that is the big challenge, isn't it?
Yes.
That, like you said, there's no substitution for meeting people, seeing something physical. Yeah, seeing the art, seeing the person. I always say to some of the people that work with us, pick up the phone sometimes, because just even hearing a voice, as opposed to seeing something, there is that. I guess it's a natural instinct, isn't it? That our senses are touched. But this is not going to go away. What we're faced with now, the bombardment of so much information every minute of the day. So I guess the challenge is how do artists, in particular, exploit it and manage it, and I guess, and also the questions about time management.
And I think that it comes down to the thing that we mentioned, having a checklist. And it has to be taught in an art school. As an elective, as a side project, I don't know, but what things do you have to know when you get your diploma, you go around the studio and you take yourself seriously? Dedicate time to time management, dedicate time to cataloging, this is done like that and like that. Dedicate time to putting yourself out there, be it online or offline or both. How to draft a presentation that you would then send to a galleries that you admire, or to an art prize, how to take pictures of your work, and they should maybe be in a nice big resolution so that someone can see them clearly.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because we
I sound cynical, I know, but I think those things are
I don't know if
really
you've had
worth
this experience with some of the
teaching.
prizes that you have, where people. So we have a couple of prizes that we sponsor, and people enter and send through images of their work, but they're really low resolution, so we can't actually really see the details, and you just sort of think you're not selling yourself very well by sending us a low resolution image of your work, or not kind of sending us a nice portfolio like we asked you for. It's going to come across a lot better when you're entering this competition if you just sort of make it nice and presentable, give us high quality images, and sort of, I suppose, for want of a better word, and sell yourself, which is which ultimately is an important part of
And,
the whole
and
thing.
I mean, let's face it,
Yes.
you're coming on just this edition. I've run it since 2009, and it still shocks me.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we're getting, some of the things that we're not getting. I mean, if you're allowed to enter a competition to win the prize, and you're told you can submit up to 4 images. To me, I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think not half maybe, but a third of the applications that we've had so far, they're not giving us 4 images. Which I think to me that doesn't make practical sense. And I don't think it's going to take so much longer. But maybe I think one of the things that was being said is that maybe we as art professionals need to start pushing the art colleges and where artists are being educated.
Well, that's one of the things we do at ACS is we do talks at art schools, and we visit art schools and just give talks to the students about generally about intellectual property rights, but also about promoting yourself afterwards. But I think the colleges themselves should obviously be, as you said, be providing this.
These days it has to be on the
It should be
agenda.
part of the sort of curriculum.
I'll just interject slightly on the last point about the resolution, in that I've just dodged a bullet recently, in that I had somebody contact me for a price list of the work, and thankfully I put it into a PDF, which it worked for. It was a price list, just small at the front end. Had I sent a decent sized image, it turned out this person was like a Ferris. So I was like, well, thank goodness I didn't send a wet and great file. They could go and print on the other end of it.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's the other side of this.
Yes.
I
That's
totally
no way
I totally agree with that.
Yes.
I mean, we have a massive amount of experience with this with Deborah Zapadi, for example, whose work is downstairs. It's it's been an issue for her.
Yeah.
But but that's one aspect. But of course,
I know, I can picture exactly what you're talking about. The map of images that you get.
we should do as professionals when we get through the Young Masters Prize this time. We should actually send a proposal to these various art colleges.
Absolutely.
And say, hey, we're open, to do a module for you because we're on the other end of this. We're seeing this, and maybe it does take some time to reflect on it and see it. And because I have to admit, I haven't seen a lot of change in the times that I've been doing the editions. It's still there. Yeah. And even with
And I mean, we're a tolerant prize. We communicate with artists. We suggest that we're happy for them to send better pictures, and we give advice. We reply to emails, and I mean, it's not that we are big and mean. We want them to be out there. We want them to be shown.
Well, it's more frustrating, isn't it, when you think, I want to actually see this.
Exactly.
I want to see it
Exactly.
or I want
I
to see
what's
more.
there.
Things like that aren't becoming, I would say things like that aren't actually easier than they were, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, cameras on phones being much better visual than they were, but even so, you know, being able to take the work in its best light is like one of those at the top of the checklist.
It really should be easy. So
But
there's more time.
we have another 5 minutes, and then I think we're gonna open up to some questions. But wouldn't you say a lot of this does come down to time? You know, because time. What is time? Time. You know, we have only 24 hours in a day. So as an artist, the challenges there are, you may have a personal life, you may have a domestic life. So that has to be factored in. You may have to travel because of where you live. You may have to be spending a certain amount of time electronically plugged in to then physical. So I don't know what from an artistic point of view, like how do you what's sort of some of
I
the
guess it was going back to Anastasia, is that point of time management and what you're willing to accept as you would like to be as a practicing artist. If you're having to spend far too much time in another job supplementing your artistic practice, then you've got to again counterbalance what you find is acceptable, and that's the way I lived through it. When I came out of university, I knew I could do something as an artist, and whether that was I didn't want my practice to be jeopardized for how I wanted to work with artists. So I had to find that route to do my primary work rather than my practice taking a hit so that I could be an artist. So that wasn't acceptable to me on that level. So then, but the same goes. If you're having to spend too much time marketing yourself and not actually time in the studio, then it's a circle that's going to come around and bite you because you're not going to have the work to market. So it is a case of managing that.
Yeah, and I think so. Here's another suggestion. I think for artists is that if people show an interest in your work, when people want to support you, nurture you, help you, market you, those are the things that really do need to be embraced. Obviously not all gallerists are going to be right for all artists, not all agents are going to be right for an artist, not all arrangements are going to be right, but there is a certain amount of that is available out there, and that's why I think things like prizes can be so good.
Because the promotion as well that comes with that.
Yeah.
When you sort of win a prize and then it's promoted throughout.
It's just promoted.
So other outlets that we aren't even aware of start promoting our prize, have started promoting our prizes and posting things on their websites and in their magazines and that sort of thing. And suddenly the winners' names are being announced, so those winners, their names are then spreading and that sort of thing. So there's a promotion that comes with that sort of organic.
In terms of time management, I guess looking at young artists. I mean, because if we're going to get this on the podcast, I'd say young emerging artists need to really, when they're launching their careers, whether it's just out of college or whether it's because they've had life changes or reevaluating family issues or doing a new second career, to look for resources and what those resources might be. Certainly with the Artist Collecting Society and the other artist resale rights groups, that's essential, it seems. Looking at things like prizes, competitions, art collectives, like you were saying, getting getting yourself into a really good group of people that are like-minded and support you. And if you're fortunate enough to find a gallery or an agent or a manager that you feel that you can work with, or several, because let's face it, the world is so small right now internationally, that you could work with someone in LA, you could work with someone in Japan, you could work with someone in your backyard. But so I think those are some of the messages. And would you like to add something?
It's boring sometimes. It's always very much time consuming, but it's inevitable these days. And I do believe that one just has to have a grasp of the most basic things. And it's just the contemporary networking, the contemporary self-promotion that has to be acknowledged and done. If there is someone to help you, if there is another artist who's been there and who does it very well and who can advise you.
Like mentoring.
Like mentoring and mentorship in general. It's great to have it, it's amazing, you're very lucky, but rather than that, one has to plow through it and basically figure it out.
I think on that note,
Who's that?
I think we'll conclude it, and then
We're going to art colleges with our
I think this is we will, and maybe we
Yes, it's a business idea.
can why not help fund the Young Masters Art Prize.
Yes.
You never know. And we can have some questions if you'd like, or we just dig into the wine and
Go
chat
upstairs,
and
see what is work.
Yes, I really like
chat
to.
upstairs.
Yeah. So shall we do that? Is that
Yes.
Is that good?
Shall we go upstairs?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John.